Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Small Success Podcast. My name is Pam Downing. I'm the Operations and Marketing Strategist here at Larison Media, and I am really excited to bring you guys today's episode. We're continuing in our series of interviewing specifically local small business owners here in our community, and cannot wait to introduce you to our guests. But before I do, let me introduce my co-host here in the studio with me.
Hey, everybody. Drew Larison, founder and creative director of Larison Media. And yeah, I've got a cold, so that's what that noise is you're hearing.
Tis the season. We're still taking bets. Is it a cold? Is it fall seasonal allergies?
I think one turned into the other, I think is how it works. Yeah. Allergies turned into a cold.
Well, so glad you're here.
We're recording 2 podcasts today, so it's great timing to get a cold, so it's good.
Well, really glad you're here. Really glad you're feeling well enough to join us.
I'm awake today.
Yes.
That's improvement from yesterday.
Okay, so also in the studio with us is our guest. He's the co-founder, current owner, and president of AndyMark, Andy Baker. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We're really glad to have you here.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm honored to be here. I'm excited to be on your podcast. This is a new hip and happening thing in Kokomo, so I'm very happy that you've asked me. So
he called us hip and happening.
Oh my God,
that's a big deal.
Well, that's what the kids say. Yeah, that's what the kids say.
All the kids are saying.
I'm so glad.
Hip and happening.
I'm trying to be young. Yeah.
Drew and I are the most senior members of our team, so it makes
quite
me
a bit,
feel
actually.
really. Me specifically, by quite a bit, so it makes me feel really good when someone says we're hip and happening.
No, we were talking before we started recording. There's a part of me that I want to start recording right when people walk in because sometimes there's really good conversations happening.
I thought you were.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't recording yet. But podcasts in general, we were just talking about. You're not a podcast person.
I need to
yet.
Be. I need to be.
And I think I've maybe convinced you to start an AndyMark podcast or at least look into that world.
Yeah.
But you're talking about you are a big talk radio person, haven't dove into the podcast world yet. So it's interesting because to me, they're very similar, but podcasts, like I was saying, the user has a lot more control, which makes it better for the user, I think.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
I think I'm just lazy because I enjoy just getting in the car and just hitting a station and it goes and there's enough stations that I can find what I want to hear. I can go sports, politics, whatever.
Sure.
And I just get my feed from that day of what I want to hear. And I'm too lazy to set up my podcast. I guess I need to figure out how to do that because I build robots, so I think I would be able to figure out those things. So yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of exciting news. We're going to actually this podcast will start to be on YouTube now as well.
That's right.
So we're starting to convert all of the MP3 podcast files into MP4s. So if you're listening and you've told somebody about this podcast, you're like, I don't know what a podcast is. Soon we'll be able to send them a YouTube link and they can listen to the podcast on YouTube as well. So that's something we're doing.
Well, I'm sure that our AndyMark social media will link to this podcast. And we've got, believe it or not, we've got customers in about 80 different countries. So
awesome.
So you'll get this podcast heard around the world by a
we
specific people.
We joke every now and then that we have a listener in Uganda. I mean, randomly things will pop up in Brazil, France, something somebody will accidentally click on it from those countries one time. But you said you're honored to be here. We're honored you're here today.
Well, thanks.
And you're on the show, so we're excited. We were going through the list of who we want to invite, and you were pretty top of my list.
Oh,
okay, Andy. Well, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background, a little bit of the history behind AndyMark.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a husband and a father. My wife, I would not be here talking to you guys without the support of her and my kids. We have 3 daughters, Rachel, Isabel, Lucy, and Mary actually works with me, and she helped me start the business. But years ago, so if AndyMark is 15 years old, this is their 15th year, and Mark Coors and I started the business in the summer of 2004, really with our wives, Emily Coors and Mary Baker. They helped Mark and I. So it was 4 of us started the business out of our respective houses.
Okay.
And Mark and I were engineers at Delphi. We were engineers. We didn't work together. It's such a big place, but we were both Delphi engineers, and we both were coaches and mentors on the TechnoCats robotics team. And back then, there weren't that many robotics teams in that market. There were a few hundred. Actually, in that market, what I'm speaking of is that market being competition and education robotics. the most popular group in that market is probably BattleBot groups.
Okay.
Those people, women and men that build robots. And that market started probably, I would define it to be the early 90s, 91, 92 is when that market started, education, competition, robotics. Started out of the blue when Dean came and founded first.
Cool.
When was that TV show? There was a show, BattleBots. That was like primetime television.
It's on right now.
It's back?
So it was 99, 2000, 2001. Yeah. It was on
Comedy
Central.
Yeah.
It was on Comedy Central, and they kind of made it out to be campy, and it wasn't great. It was good.
Yeah.
And the founder and the owner of the BattleBot
Franchise?
copyright and name,
like the brand,
all that, the brand.
Yeah.
That owner decided to shut it down. I think they just weren't happy with how it was all being shown, and now it came back and it's on Discovery, and it is
cool.
the number one show on Discovery right now. This is the third season on Discovery, and actually we have one of our staff who is on a team of BattleBots, and his team got second.
Wow!
2 Fridays ago, they lost out to the reigning world champ, but it's cool. It's a pretty tight knit group, but there's, as far as like the big robots that fight in BattleBots, there's probably about maybe 200 of those worldwide.
Wow.
That's not a big market.
Yeah.
But within our market of mostly first and the first robotics market, we have like 12 or 13,000 customers who are schools and teams and such that build robots. But back in 2004, to get back to my story, sorry. But back in 2004, we saw an opportunity in the market to make it easier for these schools, colleges, high schools, teams to build a robot if you had a company that really specified their products to be made or be marketed directly to them. At that time, if you were an engineer or a kid or a teacher or a school corporation, accounts payable department, you had to make tens of different purchases.
Wow.
To find the right specific parts to build your one robot. And we didn't know that then, but we wanted to sell certain parts that teams couldn't find, that they would recreate themselves over the years. We would see on the same robot, on the same team's robot from year to year, we'd see similar designs that they would make that they couldn't buy. Either a shifting gearbox or an aluminum sprocket that they made off a wire EDM, or an Omni wheel or a Mecanum wheel. These things just weren't available. And so Mark and I decided to make those things available. We started pretty small with those specific products. And then 10 years later, we were the kind of like the Walmart or the distributor for that market in a way.
You were the Amazon because it was all online. Right?
Yeah. And there were no distributors at that time. So we kind of we got to sell this stuff, and people know who we are in this market. So we created a company name that our customers would identify us with. So, that's Andy and Mark's company. That's AndyMark. Duh.
Makes sense.
So, and believe it or not, so we set up our e-commerce website. I'll never forget this. We had actually renamed it as AndyMark.biz because .com was taken. And neither Mark nor I knew how to do any kind of web stuff. And we really, I don't still, I can edit, but that's about it. But the guy that did our web development and creation and content, he was living in Indy. And I would send him DVRs through the mail, through the snail mail. I'd send him DVRs through the mail for him to populate pages because I was on a dial-up still. I was on an AOL dial-up, and I was trying to send him pictures that were too big for the dial-up. And so I would just screw it.
It was precious time too.
I would put it on a DVR, send it to him. I'd say and I'd send an email. Said there's 10 pictures on this DVR. This is what I want done with these pictures.
Wow.
And that was only 15 years ago.
That's what as you're talking, I'm thinking that's only 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Incredible. The rate, such exponential growth in that world of technology in a very short amount of time.
So as a Delphi employee, one of our benefits was we could have an AOL account, I think for $3 a month. And me being the cheap guy that I am, I think you could get cable internet back then, but it was like $30 a month.
Sure.
It was a luxury item.
Why should I give up my $3 AOL dial up if I'm going to have to?
Well, yeah, of course.
That was great. So So we worked out of our houses for 3 years. We moved into Inventrek in 2007 here in town, and Inventrek actually started as a technology park in 2004 also.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we moved in 2007. At that time, probably the number one hardest decision to make was, as an entrepreneur at that time, was how the heck do you know you can leave your comfortable day job and go into this risky new startup business? And
So how long were you into running AndyMark before you left?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
Most entrepreneurs will tell you you won't make any money from your startup business for 1 year. So just don't expect to get rich soon. Mine was 3 years.
Yeah.
So I was working at Delphi for Tim Garner, best engineer I've ever met. Hi, Tim. And he was very supportive of me, but he wanted me to get my stuff done at Delphi. I had to make him happy. I had to make my wife happy, my kids happy. And so it took me 3 years until I finally said to my partner, Mark, and our respective wives, I said, either I got to get paid for this stuff or we're done. Because I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm working way too much. This is crazy. I've got little girls. I got to be a dad too. And either I'm quitting Delphi or we're quitting AndyMark. And my wife said, well, if you quit Delphi, I'm working. I'm living at home with three girls. I'm not working. You need to make the same money as you did at Delphi. So what we did, we cash flowed. We did a cash flow analysis of my salary from Delphi within the AndyMark cash flow budget. And we thought, oh, gosh, I think we have the money to do this. I think we can cash flow my salary. So we did that. And we also, at the same time, Emily left her current job and came over to work with me at Inventrek. So she was our controller, accountant, and she did wonderfully. And I was there full time. And then a year later, Mark went full time at AndyMark also. So then we have 3 employees, and then we added more and more and more. And then we had.
So you had employees before you were full time.
No. I was still our first employee. So Mark and Emily, Mary and I did all the work before I went full time. We just didn't pay ourselves.
Where was the money going? Just into an account, basically?
Inventory.
Okay.
So we would build up inventory. We would buy tools. We would buy a little bit of equipment. We had to pay for. I think we bought a mold by that time. So it just went into inventory that we could sell. And
just investing, 100% investing back into the business. Yeah.
And we each put in a few $1,000s when we started, and we went to a local bank and got their support. Hello, Community First Bank. Thank you for your support. And so they supported us since day one, and we put in a little bit of money from our personal accounts, and then it just went all into the inventory. And then we started when we moved in Inventrek, we had to cash flow that rent. It's not free to be in Inventrek. It's a good deal. They take care of a lot of things.
It's an incubator of sorts for a lot of people. Yeah.
So we were in a 900 square feet suite. I still know where the suite is today, and we would bang on stuff. We made hardware. We made wheels, gearboxes. We would make a lot of noise and make a lot of parts. So they loved having us there because they could show us, these guys are making these cool looking wheels and gearboxes, and we can show them what we're working on. We could drive robots up and down the hallway, and so we were kind of the poster boys for being at Inventrek because you could see the physical things we were making. Sure. Unlike a software or media, or it's hard to show what you're doing because it's on a screen.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that was 2007. We hired a few more people, and in 2011, actually the summer of 2011, this was very vivid. We were using 4,000 square feet of space at the backside of Inventrek where they had a loading dock and such, and we had 2 suites at that time, probably I think 8 full-time employees or so, and we saw kind of a wave of new business coming because our market was growing. We actually grew every year, 7, 8, 9, and 10,
which is incredible.
Yes. So why is that incredible?
Well, our economy in those years
exactly
did not grow.
So we were growing.
Wow.
And the bank and us both kind of knew, like, holy crap. You're not slowing down, and everybody else is.
Yeah.
You're on to something new. And this was, like I said, it's a new market. It only started in 92. We were and it was a pretty very new market still in 2004, 2005 up to 2011. We didn't have hardly any competitors, like they call that blue ocean market. Whereas now we have some competitors, and it's kind of tough sometimes. And
it can make good things though.
Yeah, and
competition is good.
It is, and I can you can get me going on that a long time. So I'm a fan of competition. It's frustrating, but it also, I mean, the end users,
iron sharpens iron. I'm a believer.
Greatly.
Sure.
So 2011, we had it all set up for the fall, and we saw more business coming, and we thought, gosh, should we look at a new place? And once you start looking it's like kind of looking for a car. Once you start looking, then before long you're buying.
You're buying a car.
And so we had a good friend here in town, Cartwright Ellis, who's our commercial real estate agent. He helped us find a new place, and we moved into a place in November of 2011 after we get everything set up at Inventrek in the summer. We had to reset it up in November of 2011 at 2311 North Washington Street, about 3 blocks north of Martino's, and we were there. Loved that place. We were there for
due to the proximity to Martino's, probably.
Yeah, we would walk down to Martino's, and we were happy being Northsiders. We're glad to be there. It was we had zero problems. With anything up on the north side. Just ran out of room. 2017, 2018, we were full, and we were also renting some space at Patriot Porcelain, the old toilet bowl factory about a mile away from our place at Washington Street. We had 8,000 square feet full over there. We were 24,000 square feet full on North Washington, and we're like, gosh, we got to figure out what's next. And our eyes kind of got bigger than our stomach in that way. We kind of jumped the gun and got into a new building, and we like it there, but gosh, we spent a lot of money getting the things set up in the new building over on East North Street, behind the McDonald's and Taco Bell and the Visitors Center. Yeah, right to the east of there is our current building, and I'll say it right now, we're not moving anymore. We're done moving. We're happy to be there. We actually have some extra space right now. I don't have any plans on my future agenda to move from that place.
If anything, you're going to add on to the building if you need it.
No, I'm not. We're fine where we are.
Yeah. That's actually, you're over where like my dad's and grandpa's business was.
What was
they're
that?
over right by Ivy Tech area.
Yeah.
Hoosier Brooch. You probably see the building. Yeah, my grandpa started that.
Are they still there?
Yeah.
We actually had him quote something the other day.
Really?
So we might pull the trigger. I mean, it's a very specific brooch.
Did you speak to Roger? Man, this is so weird.
I don't know. It was I have a
small business circle.
Well, no, like no one in my entire life has known what a brooch is. Like for many, many years of my childhood, people thought my father made jewelry.
They look lovely as you wear them to parties. And such.
No, like my father did not make jewelry, but like it's so funny.
So we actually,
you're the only person I think I've ever had a conversation with that said brooch and knew what he was talking about.
So we sell simple brooches. So we used to just buy brooches to put holes in gears and keyways and things. And in our market, this is kind of technical, but in our market, a big thing is hex drive. So if you have an axle that turns a wheel or it turns a sprocket, most of the time you have a cylindrical shaft coming out as the axle, and there's a little keyway in there. And you put a key in it, and then you have this female thing, a sprocket that has a broached key in it, or broached keyway in it, and that's what drives the sprocket or the wheel.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, kids on robotics teams lose machine keys.
Weird.
Go figure. And I lose machine keys, and they drive me nuts. And these robots are driving around. They're not like robots on the floor of like Delco, how they used to be, or Delphi, or most of the robots at Chrysler. Most of them don't drive around. There's some tugs out there that drive around. But these are, if like, this is like BattleBots light. They don't beat each other up too much, but they're hitting each other and they're running around. So very dynamic situation. So machine keys vibrate loose and fall away. So we figured out that, gosh, let's get rid of machine keys. So we would use hex-shaped shafts and have driving hex-shaped holes. You can imagine that it's pretty good torque on those things. But you got to got to have a hex hole to take a hex shaft.
And that's what the brooch is being used
and
for.
so we sell hex-shaped hubs, sprockets, those kinds of things. We actually invented a certain hex bearing. We didn't patent it, dumb me, but we invented a certain hex bearing, and now like 3 of my competitors sell the same hex bearings.
thing.
Super fine.
Yeah.
So our customers are benefiting from that, which is fine. But if our customers don't know how they can put a hex hole in something, we actually sell a brooch. So I've asked Who's Your Brooch to quote it, but this is a very common, fairly cheap, relatively brooch that's made by one of the big broaching companies. So we actually just buy like 10 at a time from them, and then we sell them for a little bit more, and we make some money. So we actually sell brooches.
That's awesome. Yeah. Which, for people listening, a brooch that we are talking about, it's a very precise cutting tool, basically. It's like down to the millimeter of cutting steel, so it's cut in a very specific way. That's the shop I grew up in.
I think there's a lot of people here in town that know what brooches are because of FCA. I'm sure there's a lot of Chrysler people, women and men out there that use brooches every day long, all day long.
Well, that was a weird thing of me growing up in this town. One, my parents did not work at Chrysler or Delphi, which was unique. Yeah. But my parents did work in manufacturing, just not in that manufacturing. So for most of my life, my friends thought my dad made jewelry.
I did not know your parents were there. Okay.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Grandpa started it years ago. Dad took it over, and now they sold it to Roger, who owns it.
Okay.
Shout out Roger Fields.
So we've talked a little bit about this, Andy, but I'd love to hear what makes AndyMark unique.
Gosh, and what me or AndyMark?
I guess both. I guess
okay.
A double question. Some of this, I mean, I feel like we've already know. You're in a niche market, right?
It's easy for me to talk about AndyMark being unique.
Yeah.
So I'll start with that.
Okay.
So AndyMark is unique because we make parts for people who build robots, and it's not industrial robots. I used to be in that market as a designer at Delphi.
Okay.
That's what I designed automation for the production lines, and that's a very competitive, very mature market. I did not want to get into that market. The new market that we were attracted to and we're in is the education and competition robotics market, and that's what our uniqueness is. Our customers are building these robots, and mostly it's kids. Mostly it's kids using our products. We as a designer, I'm a mechanical engineer, and so as a designer, and I've taught our designers the same thing. We're designing for two extremes of a user. We're the sophomore football player that over torques everything, and he'll just beat it up. And he's a great kid, but he might be smart, but he's very ignorant at this time. He doesn't know which tool to use. He just brute forces everything. And then the other extreme is the freshman 90-pound young lady who's hopefully on these robotics teams also. They're both there, and she doesn't want to break anything. She's very delicate, and she's very careful, and she's not as much of a ogreish risk taker as the other extreme. But those are the two types of products we have to design for. And so granted, there's engineers and there's teachers and there's like school people that buy our products, but the end users we design for are the students. And so what I get a kick out of is when our products teach them something, and they can learn physics, they can learn math, science, engineering, or even business through using our products on their robot. So our market are these kids in these high schools who are building robots to learn about something that they can make a career out of. They can go pro doing a team, doing a sport in a way, a robotics sport, that they can choose their college major, or they can get their associate's degree. They can hop in to be a machinist or electrician or an engineer or whatever, and they can figure out, this is what I want to do because I like this or I don't like that.
Very cool.
So you're a niche in a niche.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I'm in the robotics world, and so people see, oh, AndyMark's a robotics company. Then you guys must be making robots for Chrysler.
Sure.
No. I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
We do some work for the bigger companies once in a while. Like today, I got to review a contract, and we have to make a. I'll say this. It's not that huge of a deal, but I'm not going to say what it is. But we're actually going to agree to make some things for Toyota. So that'd be kind of cool. That's kind of a big opportunity for us.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, the BattleBots group is a very small group. A lot of those people on those teams are our customers. They might not use our parts on their robots because most of the parts on a BattleBot robot is a very custom. It's all optimized, custom designed, and we make parts that are more ubiquitous and user friendly for thousands of customers, not one. Mm-hmm. But those people who are building those robots are also mentors and coaches on a lot of high school robotics teams, which is a cool thing. Very cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm hearing two things, like how AndyMark started. And I mean, I know Mark isn't in the room with us, but the passion for the thing that you actually do, like the engineering and the mechanics, that's one thing. But then I'm also hearing this passion for students and young people and kind of our future. And it's really cool that you found a way to combine those two things and very clearly has been successful.
I am living the dream. I get to do what I love to do with design, business, and I get to stay young by working with kids. Like, okay, last night we had I'm a coach on the Cybertooth robotics team. And last night we went down to the go-kart track and we drove around go-karts and ran into each other. A 50-year-old guy running into high school kids on a go-kart track and playing putt-putt. And as a coach on that team, that keeps me young. So I'm kind of selfish that way. I enjoy being around students. I enjoy having an impact with them. They joke around. There's like at Cone Palace afterwards. They're saying, "Well, Andy, you're not very cool." I was like, "Well, that's all right. I used to be cool, but I'm okay with not being."
Dude, you're not cool. Oh wait, sorry, 14-year-old. I should have said that.
But I'm okay with that. It keeps me young. I think it helps me. I think as a coach, and I would recommend any young adult, if you can be a coach doing something you love, it helps to be a better parent. As your kids grow older, you see what works with how you interact with preteens and teenagers. And I think I'm a better parent with my 3 daughters because I spent a lot of time with teenagers over this is my 23rd year as a robotics team coach.
Wow.
It's interesting because we have an exchange student in our house. Our family does.
So do we this year.
Yeah. Okay. So we had her part-time last year and then full-time this year. And I was talking to Aaron actually the other day. It's really because we're like, she's from Vietnam. English is so, but at the same time, like completely different lives, right? Living a teenager and the cultures and everything they live in Vietnam compared to like a teenager in America, but she's still a teenager.
Yep.
So every now and then, like there's things that like we have to, as her like host parents, deal with like her parents because she's a teenager.
Sure.
But I'm like, there was one the other day and I was talking to Aaron after like we had talked to Rosie about it and conversation went great. I'm like, but how cool is this? We're getting practice on how to deal and communicate with a teenager before our kids are even close to being teenagers. And like, it's kind of like what you were saying. I'm getting to know that world before it's even my real kids that I have to deal with in that world. It's great.
Yeah. But not only do you have that experience with them, but also you see parents parenting their kids who are on your team and you see what to do
and what not
to do.
Mm-hmm. And the world is sports, and it's probably no different than the robotics world. Like I'm seeing so many random stories, like referees or like people like that partake in like youth sports are at such record lows. People don't want to do it because of the parents, not because of like the students or the kids, which probably the kids, they learn things from their parents, but like the reaction the parents give referees and coaches, and they're like, no, it's not worth it. That's not worth that $25 I'm going to get for refereeing a middle school basketball game or something.
And we have, Drew, we have both extremes. We've got parents that give other parents bad names, that do stupid things, but also there's parents like there's been a couple parents on Cybertooth who their kids go through the program and now they're empty nesters and they're coming back.
Yeah,
and the kids awesome. And the kids on the team now realize the fact that this is a gift to them because that parent could easily go away.
Sure.
But they make a big deal about that parent sticking around. 2 on our team are Jerry Hartman and Teresa Duvall. They help out the kids, even though their kids have moved on to other things. And the kids are like, "Thank you for being here," and they give them a lot of props. So parents are great. Parents can be foolish. But yeah, I learn a lot.
In general.
I learn a lot from parents, and I'm sure there's a lot of young engineers and professionals at AndyMark that don't have kids on the teams that I'm on that they see Mary and I with our parenting, and I'm sure they say the same thing. Well, they could have done that different, or oh, that was pretty cool. They did that, and that. So they learn the same things.
Really interesting.
So that's the uniqueness about AndyMark. I want to know about Andy.
Okay.
Because your story is really interesting to me. How old were you when you started AndyMark?
See, it was 2004. I was 35.
So 35. Before 35-year-old Andy, did the idea of being an entrepreneur ever cross your mind?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
So as a kid.
Because when you listen to just your story, it's kind of like this was just thrown into your lap.
Nope.
But you've always wanted to do it.
So as a kid, my dad was a CPA, and he was even this is kind of an interesting story, but he was a CPA up in Monticello, and ran a county business, had thousands of customers. So he was his own entrepreneur, and he worked with a lot of farmers, a lot of other people that were business owners. And then also my parents got divorced, and my mom married a farmer. So both of the men who are father figures to me in my life are entrepreneurs, all farmers, even though they're mostly the stereotypically conservative people. They're also some of the biggest risk takers that you know.
Huge risk
because
takers.
of the dealing with disease, weather, markets. It's crazy, but that's another story. So I had a lot of input from people in my life that were entrepreneurs that were successful, that did well. Like, well, that's not hard. I can do that. And I think that idea of having that inspiration is not very common. Actually, here in Kokomo, there's a lot of people that worked in big factories and had very successful careers working in those factories, and very smart people, but those aren't necessarily entrepreneurial roles. So they didn't have a lot of role models locally, whereas I did. So I had a lot of role models being a young person. And I also was good at math and science, and I kind of gravitated toward being an engineer. I had two uncles who were engineers. They told me about their life as engineers, and so they were very inspirational to me. And I said, well, I like fixing things. I like working on things, designing things, so I can do engineering. Let's do this. So I got a job here in town out of high school, or out of college. I went to the University of Evansville, got my engineering degree, got a job here in Kokomo, and kind of always looked in the future as like, what's my opportunity to become an entrepreneur? Because I wanted to.
Where's the exit? To pull the trigger.
I liked my job. I didn't like some of the things that Delphi was doing when I was an engineer there from a high up corporate standpoint. That was in the 90s. We were starting to globally source things. We were starting to move jobs to other countries. I was like, gosh, am I going to have to go live in China to work here? I'm not against that, but gosh, I don't think my wife would like that. My kids, that wasn't super attractive to me. So, I was looking for an exit, as you said, and I actually I won a big award in 2003. And within the first market, I won a big award that got my name out there as a mentor award winner guy. It was called the Woody Flowers Award. It's big for our market, and that gave me a lot of notoriety at the time. And so, also at the same time, a company in our market who now is my biggest competitor, but a company in our market wanted to hire me at their location. And my wife and I looked at that location as a possibility for us to move down there and work for them. And we realized that we did not want to move away from Kokomo. It took some tough discussions, but we realized we did not want to move away from Kokomo. And I said, I will stay here in Kokomo if you support me to start my own business. And she said, yes, wholeheartedly. So if you let me stay here in Kokomo and have my family help me raise our kids, and I'll be happy. And I said, I'll be happy if you will help me be an entrepreneur. So from then on, that deal that Mary and I made, that compromise was the foundation really of my effort of being an entrepreneur. So whenever I give a talk or anything like that about entrepreneurship, number one thing is you got to get your family on board with what you're doing. If they're reluctant, it's it makes it tougher.
They're the first people you pitch the vision to.
Yeah.
And if they need to be on board before anybody else.
So I made the agreement to stay here in Kokomo. She made the agreement to unconditionally support this entrepreneurial effort. I went and found Mark as a partner, and then we started from there. And going back to my dad, this is the funny, sad but funny part of the story. Dad was Dad was very instrumental in convincing Mary and Emily Mark and I's vision from the business perspective. He went with me to some of these events. He saw that I was, in a way, this kind of celebrity in this very niche market. And he said, gosh, you got to do this.
Yeah.
This is a no-brainer. I see the market like you do, and I think the business model makes sense. You're going to start slow. I don't know how long it's going to take for you to be able to go on your own, but I'll help you along the way. So he helped to start our S Corporation, got us registered with the state. That was June of 2004. August 2004, he got diagnosed with brain cancer and died in March. So my business advisor, my mentor, my guide, it was tough. It was like, shit, that was hard.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, I miss him to this day, and I often talk to him, but he doesn't talk back too much anymore. But it was he gave me great advice at the time, and I really thank him for that. And I've had to seek out other people's advice along the way, like banking advice or when the big decision about when I could go away from Delphi and go full-time AndyMark. That was a huge decision of how do you make that decision? So I wish Dad was there for that, but I'm sure he's looking down and he's proud of me. But it was kind of odd that he helped us get us started, and then he hasn't seen any of this success, really.
Yeah. Well, we had a podcast where we interviewed Drew's wife, Erin. But
that was interesting. That's an idea
really
for your podcast. Is you get your wife on the podcast with you?
That sounds like a load of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. It was
really
it was
fun.
good. It was good. It was kind of
To
conversation.
hear you talk about your partner, your spouse, Mary, your dad, these people who are so important in your life, the people who obviously you love dearly personally, but to have their support and to have their encouragement, advice, whatever those things are, really, really matters in that entrepreneurial journey. You know, that you can think about all the what ifs, you know, what if Mary wouldn't have been as supportive? There's all these what ifs that you go down, but the fact is, no, she was 100% supportive. She's been behind you. She's been a part of it. So was your dad. So that's a really cool part of your story.
Thanks.
How I always took it with like Erin starting this company was like Erin was insanely supportive from day -1, like before it even happened. But every time she said, do it, I heard more from her, I believe in you.
Yes.
It wasn't like Larissa Media is this brain, like mind-blowing idea. She's like, you can do it. And like that always meant a lot to me.
Was she working at the time when you guys started this? Okay.
Yeah.
So the crazy thing about Mary is, I am the risk taker. I am the fly by on the seat of my pants. She is the planner.
That's the same in our marriage.
And our biggest success as a married couple is her ability to be more flexible.
Well, that was always the joke.
Just dealing with me and my crap, it's not easy. and so at the time, I think she left St. Joe Hospital in 99. I was coaching Technocats and full-time at Delphi. And then she was not out of work for 5 years. And I come to her with this idea, start this business. And then 3 years later, so 8 years in from her not working, I'm saying, I'm going to leave Delphi. I'm going to leave this. And I was making decent money.
And that's health insurance for your family. Yeah. Like there's so many variables other than a paycheck.
And she's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But thank God, thanks Mary. She was very supportive, and it was pretty cool. So
I'd love to talk to her because the joke with Erin and me is always, if she was talking to me, unbelievable support, unbelievable confidence. Yep. She hangs up that phone and she starts freaking out. Like whatever she played face well to me, but like now later she'll admit like, oh yeah, when I hung up, I like closed my office door and like screamed. I was terrified of like what was happening.
So Mary, but she had her family here. She had her sister who is her best friend, Linda, and she had her family here. So that was her support, and she was comfortable having them as her support network. If we would have started a business in Missouri or Texas or wherever, Hell no. It would have been
different story.
But she had her place of comfort here, and she had her support network, and she was able to handle me doing these crazy things.
Yeah.
So
Really neat. So, okay, I want to ask you, we've touched on a few of these things, but I'm going to ask you a double question. I'd love to hear about some of the challenges that AndyMark has experienced, what you learned from those as a business owner. Then I'd also love to hear about some of the successes that you've experienced and how you celebrate success.
Okay. So I'm going to cite 3 challenges, and I won't go into the details of each one of them unless you want to dig, but probably the first challenge I already talked about was starting the business from 2004 to 2007.
Yes.
It was crazy, and I like watching TV. I remember not watching TV for 3 years unless I was working at a dining room table building parts as I watched TV.
Sure.
I would watch a Colts game or something as I was putting together an Omni wheel or whatever, putting oil and grease on our dining room table, which drove my wife crazy. So that was hard. And then the second thing was a challenge was we took on a new product in the, I forget what time of year it was, but it was like 2008. We took on a new product. It was a truck accessory product because our summers were kind of dull, kind of dead. Most of our business is in the winter when school's in session.
Yeah. Sure.
Go figure. So we hired a guy who had a patent. We bought his patent, and it was a truck. It was an elevated truck tray that went back and forth, sliding in and out of the truck. And so we were trying to sell this truck tray to the truck accessory market. And Mark and I designed it. So we redesigned it and made it manufacturable, but we kind of over-designed it, so it was kind of expensive. And we learned a lot about how our distribution of us distributing our own parts to our direct customers is totally different from distributing parts in the truck accessory market, which has 2 more layers of distribution between the manufacturer of the part and the customer. So the margin is a lot different in that market versus our market. So that was a big lesson of probably a $200,000 lesson of developing a product and it failing. And also the fact that we were trying to sell a $1,000 truck accessory tray to the construction market during a time when the construction guys had 0 job. They were just looking for the next job. They weren't looking how to work more efficiently. Yeah. So the lesson there was learning to stick in our market, stay in our market. And I guess, and then the third thing was a lesson of really managing growth, the difficulty of managing success and managing growth. These past 2 years have been very difficult, and we're getting through it. And we're going to be fine, but we've stretched too far. Well, it was enough of a stretch that it was a painful cash crunch time over the past year. And anybody who talks to me, it wasn't a huge secret, but we've had a cash crunch, and we've developed a new website. We've moved into a new building, which took a lot of investment for us to move in, and we've developed a new product during that time. All 3 of those things would have been a challenge on their own, but in my great wisdom, I chose to pull the lever on all 3 of those things at the same time, which was a mistake. And I tell my staff that. It's like, well, it's a mistake, but that's one of those toothpaste in the bottle thing. You can't put it back in. And
good analogy.
Just deal with it. So that was a very good lesson learned. So I'm more risk adverse right now as far as large investments than I have been in a long time. And I'm also, I got to have a really quick ROI on any kind of investment. If staff comes to me and says, I need to hire a person, or I need to build, I need a new machine, or I need a new mold. Well, how many months? How many months? And let's hope it's under 12. Is that return on investment? Yeah. And if they can do that, great. But if it's 2 or 3 year investment, it's like, let's wait a little bit. Let's get ourselves a little more healthy here. But I
love the fact that you're a world. I like to say, in our world, we do marketing, but I like calling ourselves like marketing practitioners, where similar to like a medical practitioner, you test doses, you test different medicines. Really, all doctors they're practicing medicine. They're practitioners of medicinal purposes. Same as us with marketing. We're always trying new things, different budgets, different platforms, different types of content. You're literally engineering is your industry. Your whole job is practicing, engineering and trying different things. Yeah. And that's fun to me. I love the idea of always just trying new things.
it's also fun. Our market cycles pretty quickly, and the kids forget about who we are within a year or two. It's like, gosh, we got to keep reminding these kids. We just told them, don't they know that we did this? And like, not our competitors. Like, so we have to tell them over and over and over what we do, and and we have a very focused. So I'm not a good marketer. I'm sometimes I think I'm okay at it, but we have a really unique niche market and marketing. So we don't advertise locally. We don't advertise in billboards or radio or print. We put a lot of money into giving away parts to give ourselves access to get the next buy in our market. So we do sponsorships of events, teams, whole families of events and those kinds of things in order to get our name in front of those teams to buy, have them encouraged to buy something that makes their experience better. And how we market to them is unique. And that's a whole other discussion. I'm not really answering her question. But,
Sure.
But so successes, what was the question about?
I'd love to just hear about some of the success you've experienced and then how you celebrate them. Or do you have a success and then just keep on moving?
I think, first of all, I think I should celebrate successes more. One of the things that we actually have committees at AndyMark where we try to celebrate success. So we have in the past given bonuses, and a year-end bonuses is always a good success thing. It's kind of dry, but people like money, obviously. We used to have a weekly pizza Wednesday. We would have pizza every Wednesday, and that kind of got very commonplace. And when we went through this belt tightening time this past summer, one of the things we cut was Pizza Wednesday, and it was hard. And it was like, gosh, it was a team builder. It was a way for us to get together every week and do some celebration in a small way. But so now we're bringing that back, and there's a committee deciding about how they want to spend the budget that we used to spend on just pizza. We're doing other things now, and so. We do have some celebrations. Like we're gonna have a chili cook-off and a costume party on Halloween to kind of celebrate the fall and celebrate the holiday and celebrate some recent successes we've had with some product launches and such. Some individual successes the company's had over the years. Starting out, and I give a presentation to Leadership Kokomo, and I give the presentation to other people. And there's this one slide. I left it in there since the fall of 2004, where a gentleman and three girls are on this picture. They have a little sign that says, thank you, AndyMark.biz. And that was a picture they posted on a very popular discussion board within our market. And so they took my money. They gave me money, like $700, $800. I gave them product, and they said thank you to me. So that was an initial success. I'm like, gosh, we're onto something. They're giving me money, and they're saying thank you. So
that's when you reply, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And they weren't even a friend. It wasn't a buddy who was like wanting me to because he likes us or whatever. It was just a guy. I think they were in New York City. I don't know who they were. I think I know which team they're on, but I think they're long gone from that team. It's been 15 years. Another success we had locally, when we moved, both times we moved, once from Inventrek to Washington Street and now from Washington Street to North Street, we got some help from the city. The city has helped us with a loan for the first time, and we got some other help from the bank and other groups. We got a tax abatement by staying in town. We got some tax incentives for that, so that was good. At the same time, we got some attention. So in both of those times we moved, we got the Business of the Year for the Kokomo Chamber of Commerce. So that was a success that I think we're proud of locally. It doesn't pay the bills,
sure,
but because local customers don't buy our parts except for
local schools,
certain teams, but they already know us.
Yeah. You're not cool to them anyway.
Right, right. So,
what do you mean I'm not cool? We won Business of the Year. No one cares, Andy.
I remember this, for whatever reason, I tell this story a lot, and I think this is a sign of success, and it was kind of a unique occasion. So within our market, there's 15% of the robotics education market within the first organization. That's FRC, FTC. That's a whole nother discussion what that is. But the first organization has 15% of their teams outside of the U.S. Canada, Mexico, Israel is really big. China, Taiwan, Australia, lots of other places. And so there's a time when we had a lot of mature, a lot of very strong, great teams in Israel. And so a lot of customers, and they've asked us to come over there and meet with them and help them out. And there's enough business going on in Israel at the time, and there still is. It's huge over there. So I went over there to Israel in it was March of 2012, and when I go to these events, even though these are my customers, I'm talking to all those teams are my customers. I'm putting up quote signs. I'm volunteer as an inspector so I inspect the robots. I'm not the lead inspector, but I've been an inspector in these robots for 20 years, so I know how to train people to be inspectors. Even though, as a vendor and a supplier, that's kind of a conflict of interest. But I'm not the lead inspector, so I don't have a final decision on anything. I just give advice on how to inspect robots, and I deal with the teams in a very efficient, positive way when I'm inspecting the robot. It's not easy to do that specific job. So as an inspector, I'm in Israel. I'm inspecting a robot. They have our mechanism wheels on the robot. Mechanism wheels are these odd-shaped omni wheels that let them move in a holonomic or multi-directional manner of driving. And on the wall of their pit, in Hebrew, is a description on how to use AndyMark wheels. These odd-looking mechanism wheels the kids have written up a description in language I can't even understand, telling their friends and their people coming into their pit how to use our wheels. So to me, I'm on the other side of the world. People are using our products, and they're describing how to use our products to somebody else in a different language. I can't even read it. So to me, that was like that just blew my mind.
What a moment!
That's
gracious.
That's really cool.
And the kid on that team, his name is Reuben, and I'll send this to him. He's still a buddy of mine. I still see he's now a mentor and a key volunteer for Israeli events. And I think he was a senior on the team at the time, and he's a really cool dude. And he and I share this story a lot. And that was the first time and his team had this goofy tennis racket. They were launching basketball foam balls into a net on a basket, and they had this tennis racket and some air duct, like dryer duct feeding the ball. It was really janky. It was a good robot, but it wasn't
refined.
It wasn't quite as refined as what they make now.
Wow.
But they had these really cool wheels on it, and they wanted to tell people about it. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing.
So that was a success that I felt, and I brought that story back. So we get those odd stories like that a lot. Just like another one that's kind of odd is there's these coaches like me on these teams, and there's these thousands of teams. So you're going to have thousands of coaches, mentors on these teams, and they have day jobs. And if they like a product that they're using on their competition robot, they might use it as an engineer on their day job.
Yeah.
So one guy in Orlando who's on a team, he tells me, yeah, I work for Disney. I use one of your gearboxes on It's a Small World ride.
Oh, my gosh.
Waving his arm is being driven by a gearbox from AndyMark. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Another guy was working on, he retired, this other guy, he was working on the Jay Leno show, and he's making a holonomic-driven chair for some segment on the Jay Leno show, and he uses our wheels.
It's amazing.
And
Pam's face is amazing. For you guys can't see this.
I'm like, what? My mind is blown.
Well, like you had never heard of AndyMark before I said, hey, we didn't have Andy Baker. Because like you said, you don't talk locally. Like it's you guys are one of the secret gems of Kokomo.
Well, we volunteered at the IUK event.
Yeah.
And AndyMark, it must have been 2 employees. They were awesome.
Oh, it was the Walk in the Future.
Yeah, the Walk in the
yeah.
So to give context, if you're not local, one of our local colleges has a day where all the kindergartners in the county come. There's different stations they can rotate through to inspire them. Well, one of those stations was AndyMark, and it was hands down the most popular station for the group of kindergartners I was with.
That's great.
They wanted to.
It was robots.
The robot was like, the robot could pick up these big plastic blocks, and then it would like push the block towards the kids. They thought it was cool. Then they got to play with parts afterwards. Anyway, it was really fun. So I had heard about them 3 days before we talked.
Well, just I know of you more because you and we've talked for years. Like, and it's just fun watching your face. Like,
it's so cool.
Disney was amazing. But
it's real.
It's such a cool. I tell people, especially the world we're in. I think there's an attitude inside of Kokomo, like nothing big outside of like Chrysler and Delphi can really start like out of Kokomo because we're just Kokomo. Like we just have like this small town attitude, and like you're such proof of that being bull crap. Well, to be honest, and I love it.
So let me go off on a tangent here for just a second. But people in Kokomo don't understand that if you think about it, there's probably more gears being made in our town than any town in the world.
I would love that actual stat.
So
I bet come up with that.
So Chrysler folks who are out there, how many gears do you guys make a day? Seriously.
Yeah.
They're making 9-speed transmissions, 8-speed, whatever. All these they're making more gears than anybody else. They're hardening more gears. There's lots of gears being made here in town. Also, Haynes International.
Yeah.
I've heard a stat that the content of GE and Rolls-Royce turbines are made up of 70% Haynes steel.
Wow.
So all those Boeing, Airbus, all those planes with turbines from GE and Rolls-Royce, they have Haynes steel flying around the world every day.
And that, like you're talking about, like you're on the little It's a Small World ride.
Yeah.
But like literally, if that's the stat, 70% chance of you getting on an airplane, something on that airplane, no matter what it is. If it's, Boeing kind of dominates that world. There's Kokomo, something on that, making that thing go and happen in Kokomo.
And I go out to lunch with T.A. Weber. I'm at lunch with T.A.
He's
Weber.
on our list.
And his phone rings and he shows me his phone and it's Joe Walsh.
Yeah.
Wanting something with his guitar or his speaker system. And so, and he sells to Alabama Shakes and The Who and Kenny Chesney. Yeah. And that's just his business. So,
yeah, you go to a Kenny Chesney show, it's a speaker made in Kokomo on the stage.
Yeah.
With his guitar. Yeah. Yeah, and no, he's on our list as well to have him on.
He'd be great.
Yeah,
the
Kenny.
stories
Kenny is too.
No, yeah, Kenny.
I'm joking.
We want to know what Kenny Chesney thinks about small business.
Hey,
that's
you never
really
know. Well, speaking of small business, that's why our podcast exists. We're called the Small Success Podcast. So I'd love to hear some tips from you. What are some steps a small business, no matter their niche, no matter their market, what are some steps they could take that would lead them towards success?
I've got a lot of different things I can say. I'm going to try to pick maybe one or two things. And this kind of very often you hear, well, do what you love and you'll never work a day. Well, not only do what you love, but do what you can stomach dealing with for the rest of your life. So like I said, this is 15 years in. I better like what I'm doing because I'm kind of stuck with this. I've committed to this. Robotics education, robotics parts, metal parts, plastic parts, those kinds of things. That's what I do. And if I was tired of it, sick of it, it would take me a while to get out of it. I can't just go start a donut business right now.
Sure.
This is what I do. So I better.
Wait, is that an option? Is that your second option?
No.
Okay.
No,
because in my head, you have a robotic donut shop.
Now Krispy Kreme kind of does that.
It's true.
But
it's true.
They have an assembly line of donuts.
We'll talk about that after the podcast.
You could add a Kokomo spin to it.
But my point is that many young, like I remember a kid at Frontier High School. I talked to him a couple years ago, and he had an invention. He had a coat that was an invention. He had solar panel chargers on it and a place to put your phone. And he was inventing this coat. He was an inventor. It was like, and I said, are you willing to deal with this coat for 8 years? Because it might take you, it might take you that long to get it to be a successful product. I said, this is a good idea, but you're going to have to embrace this. You're going to have to live, eat, breathe, bleed that coat for the next however many years until you can either sell enough of it to make yourself a profit, or you can sell the idea to somebody. Because getting in, getting out isn't quick. You have to live, learn, bleed this stuff for a long time, and it's your life, and so you have to accept that. Your family has to accept it. So not So I'm kind of upping the ante with regard to do what you love, but also do what you love that you know you can do for multiple years. So if you want to open a donut shop, great. If you love donuts, great. But if you don't like getting up early in the morning,
Right.
and you're a night person or whatever, then you got to figure that you're going to have to deal with that for multiple years. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. I think the second thing, and I give this talk. This is a story. I'll try to keep this short. This is a story on how I want our customer service to be done. And my wife is in charge of our customer service. She does a great job. But the end of the lesson of the story is your customers, even though they might be ignorant at this moment, they're smart people, and you got to respect them. So treat them correctly, and they'll be a loyal customer for a long time. So we had a customer in Colorado. It was a Friday night, 5 o'clock. This is like 10 years ago. So he called. He says, I have a demo tomorrow. I need a machine key. We talked about machine keys. This is my machine key. I need a machine key. I can't find one, and I have a demo tomorrow. And I got to have you overnight this machine key to me because you guys have this metric machine key that's really unique, and I can't buy it anywhere else. And it goes in my sim motor. And I said, gosh, okay. Machine key is costing you 75 cents. It costs me a lot less. I'm not going to say my cost, but a lot less because I buy like 20,000 at a time. Yeah. So machine key is going to cost him 75 cents. Overnight shipping to Colorado is going to cost him $35 if we track that overnight shipping and make sure he gets it. Saturday delivery is another $15. So that's $50 he's in for a machine key.
For one machine key.
And it's a 2 millimeter square piece of metal that's about a half inch long. It's small. It go on a postage stamp. And I said, do you have a finishing nail or a copper wire, anything that's about that size? Go get a pair of calipers, go grab some nails, and figure out how long of a nail you need that's about that size. Shove that round nail into that square slot in your motor and put the gear on it and tell me if it works. He says, yeah, this is great. This works. And it's just a demo. It's not a competition. We just have to show the robot for like a half an hour. That's it. Great. So he did that. He didn't order the machine key. We went to the shelf. We pulled off this less than $1 machine key, put it on a Post-it note, put it in an envelope, put an address to him. I think we sent him 2, and put a stamp on the envelope, and he got 2 machine keys from us like the next Wednesday. But so I gave up a $50 order in order to build a relationship with a guy that now I've got, because I respected the fact that he knows how to build robots, so he's smart enough to figure out that I gypped him for $50 if I would take advantage of his necessity at that point. So my lesson is to any other business owner, don't go out for the quick fix dollar. Go for the long play, the long customer loyalty, and that will set a good foundation for your business. And also it sets a good tone for your employees. If your employees are if you tell them to do something a little bit unethical, or not that selling a machine key overnight is unethical, but if you can give them a cheaper way to do something and you give them a green light that your employees can pull that off, and they're saving the customer a few dollars, they feel like they're doing good too. So don't go for the quick dollar and give your employees a green light so they can do the same thing.
It's good.
That's good. That's a great nod to a really smart leadership move too. Thinking of the customer, of course, but acknowledging the fact that the employees watch how you're handling that.
Yeah, your influence there of we're not in business to screw people over, but we are in business with the idea of long-term thinking. And those are 2 great lessons for an employee to see from the top down. That, like you said, will trickle out to every action they do throughout the day as well.
So this is kind of odd, but we're not really a small business. We're a medium-sized business. Yeah. We don't have a sales manager. So I'm our sales manager still. I haven't hired that person yet. It might be a couple of years away. But so as people come to me as a sales manager, they say, well, can I give this customer this discount? Can I give this? They're doing this. Can I? And they ask for approval. Most of the time my answer is, well, what do you think? What do you want to do for that customer? And I give them some guidelines, and I give them some percentages to look for and that kind of stuff. But most of the time it's my wife or Becca or Lori, and they come to me and they say, this customer needs this. Can I give it to him? Hell yeah. I don't need your story. If you think that customer needs that, I believe in you, and that's fine with me.
Yeah. Letting them know, I've always learned if employees know and really believe that you trust them, you talk about like that boss to employee relationship. Yeah. That is unbelievably great for long term for that employee.
They still ask me. They don't. I mean, they like. I think giving me the responsibility of making that. Cause I have a quote today like for 100 sets of wheels that are $300 per set. So that's a $30,000 order. So I get to set the discount for the quantity discount of that order. Yeah. But if it's something like that, I'll do that. But if it's something small, that's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well, as we wrap up here, we ask every guest this same question, and I'm fascinated in your answer. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. So what is one small thing that you do in your life? Could be a habit, something fun, something serious. What is one small thing that you do in your life that has contributed to your success?
I don't know. I haven't thought about this. So this is a good question, and you got me on the spot here. So
good. I'm so glad.
I'm going to say something that I think my wife will definitely laugh at me about, but I think
even better.
So with my spouse, with my staff, with my customers, I think the one thing that has led to our success is, and I think my ability to compromise. I think listening to people, understanding what they need, and then making a compromise and not always just having my way. Because my employees, they'll argue with me about stuff, and I don't want them not to. One guy asked, when I hired him on, he asked for permission to argue with me. I was like, yeah, we can do that.
I like that.
And so me being able to compromise is good. Sometimes I finally will say, no, this is how it's going to be. But that I don't have to do that very often. And usually I'm listening and I'm compromising, and somewhere between my idea and their idea, there's even a customer's idea. Somewhere there's a really good answer. And it's not always perfect, and it's not. I mean, no one's perfect, but in a collaborative way, compromising makes pretty good answers, I think.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
It's the opposite of like dictatorship business owner.
My way or the highway.
Yeah.
You say that in a funny voice, but like it's a real thing. Yeah. And like it just stifles creativity and passion from your employees to like do that. Now you're like you said, of course there's moments.
I have my moments. Yeah. And I'll pick my battles and I'll say, darn it guys, this is the way it's gonna be. And I think they sometimes they sometimes can claim there's some examples of I've done it without compromise. But I really want to be if I'm not compromising enough, I'm open to listening, and I'm open to having that negotiation.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really grateful for your company, for the way in which you lead people. Really grateful to hear your story. It's really fascinating. So for those of you listening, I will have everything from our conversation today linked in the podcast notes. So places where you can find more about AndyMark, all of their social medias, all of that we will have linked below. And as always, you can find more about us over at larissamedia.com. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Pam.